When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Skims or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and for shoppers buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. It's home of Shop Pay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Allbirds uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/income.
Hi everyone, I'm Deb Flashenberg. Welcome to Yoga, Birth, Babies, a podcast produced by Prenatal Yoga Center. We will be diving into everything prenatal yoga, birth, and baby related, hoping to inspire, educate, and empower you through your journey into motherhood. Thank you for listening.
Hi, I'm Deb Flashenberg, and I'm your host of Yoga, Birth, Babies. And today we have a birth story. It is really an incredibly, beautifully powerful and fast birth story from one of our students, Eyal. Let me tell you a little bit about this. So in this episode, we talk about what it felt like when contractions started intensely, just minutes apart. I know that I often talk about, it's going to start with a lot of spaciousness and slowly get longer and stronger and closer together. Not in this story. It started up pretty crazy and fast. Eyal also talks about how she used her breath and my favorite mantra, let go, and how that helped her stay grounded through labor. And she also talked about the role of prenatal yoga and how she used hypnobirthing to help her stay grounded. And then also how her nervous system helped regulate her birth experience. I especially loved how just honest and relatable Eyal was and how she reflected on surrendering to the process and trusting her body and moving through the contractions one at a time, even though one of her central themes was about staying in control. It was this interesting combination that within the control she was seeking, she used so many tools to help her work through the contractions and stay grounded and rely on herself and the words in her head and how that helped. It's a really fantastic story. And one thing I know Eyal wanted when she was pregnant was to find positive birth stories. So it feels so beautifully full circle that she's offering to our community a really powerful, beautiful birth story. But let me tell you a little bit about Eyal Meir. She is a certified IBCLC lactation consultant and a specialist in prenatal and postpartum nutrition, combining professional experience with lived experience as a mother of 2. She offers a grounded perspective on maternal health, infant feeding, and supporting families through early parenthood. She was a delight. She's been with PYC since she's about 20 weeks pregnant, and I just so enjoyed having her in class. And when she shared her birth story with me through an email, I'm like, we got to get you and get this podcast going because I loved her story. So I'm excited for you to hear that. Now, before we jump into Eyal's story, I always love to give updates about what's happening at Prenatal Yoga Center. So really the best way to stay up to date on our schedule and our workshops and our teacher trainings is to head to the website, prenatalyogacenter.com. We have everything there. And we also have some free videos and my blog, which is like 20 years old. So there's a lot of material in there. And of course, past podcasts. So much you can find there. You can also find the podcast application. And I want to thank those that have submitted an application because I'm always looking for new ideas or topics or people. And I'm so appreciative of those that have taken the time to submit their ideas or themselves as a guest. So thank you. I also have a favor to ask of you. If you could take a moment and leave a rating and review, I would so appreciate that. It's where it helps people find us. And this podcast is to support the community. So the more we can grow our community, the more support we can offer. And the tagline at PYC is changing lives one birth at a time. And it's something I'm passionate about. So the more people we can interact with, hopefully we're helping change their lives in a positive manner as we support them through pregnancy and birth and parenthood. All right. That is enough from me. Let's take a break. When we come back, please enjoy Eyal's story.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Skims or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and for shoppers buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. It's home of ShopPay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Allbirds uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/income.
Hi, Eyal. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I am so excited to hear your birth story. I got a little snippet of it when you wrote in after your birth. And as soon as I read what you wrote, I'm like, okay, we need to have a conversation about it.
Definitely.
I'm so excited. And you know me, I'm all about full transparency. I'm going to also admit to the community. So you were coming to class. When did you start coming to PYC? You were pretty early, right?
I think around like week 20, maybe a little bit before, something like that.
So you were with us pretty much until you had your baby. And I think it took me like 2 months to actually pronounce your name.
True.
I'm like,
but you did a really good job once you got it.
I practiced in my head. I'm like, okay, I know details about her life. I know how to spell her name. I've heard you introduce yourself with it. And then after practicing, and I actually checked in with my friend who's a cantor who speaks Hebrew. I'm like, make sure I'm pronouncing this right.
Perfect.
So she gave me a little tutelage. So I'm so excited. I always think that's funny because, I got to know you and I'm like, I'm afraid to say her name.
No, you can always ask and it's fine. But no, you got it. You got it perfectly.
Wait, thank you. All right. So I'm super excited to learn a little more about like the details of your birth story. But before we get into that, I would love for you to tell me a little bit more about yourself and your family.
Of course. So my name is Eyal. I am 32 and I live in New York City on the Upper West Side. I moved to New York about 2 years ago with my family. My husband's name is Oad and we have 2 girls, Dory, who is almost 4. And Goni, who is 2 months old.
And I didn't find this out until many weeks until you coming to PYC, because we're going to do another podcast about this, but you're also an IBCLC.
That's true. IBCLC and also a nutritionist.
Oh, wow. Okay. I did not know that part as well. So how long have you been doing that?
I think almost like 6 years, something like that. I was in IBCLC before I was pregnant with my first daughter.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So I did like a long prep class before I did it myself.
So trust me, I was teaching prenatal yoga and I was a doula well before I had my own kids. So what sparked, kind of going off on a tangent, but what sparked your interest in being IBCLC, especially before you had kids?
Yeah. So I started off my journey as a nutritionist. Like I did my first degree and then, the hours in the hospital and all of that. And then I had some free time just because I wasn't a parent myself yet. And I said I wanted to look into like infant feeding and breastfeeding. I don't know why. Lactation specifically, it was just, I thought it was like amazing and I might as well try and learn it. And then when I started off, I understood that like the first course wasn't enough because I didn't have my own experience and it was important for me to get more experience. So I went into the IBCLC route, which is like 500 clinical hours. It's like a whole big, long thing.
Yeah, it's not like just a weekend training. It's a big, big commitment.
It is.
That is fascinating. And I'm so excited that we're going to do another podcast with that in mind. But yeah, as soon as I found that out, I'm like, oh, I got to get to know this lady even more.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's jump into talking about, I know this is your second birth. So how did this pregnancy and preparation feel different from your first?
Yeah. So if we're focusing specifically on the pregnancy, I think it was totally different. In the way that the first trimester was super tough. like nausea, and I was feeling really bad basically from the moment I woke up until I fell asleep. Like it was just bad. And the first time around, like with Dory, my first pregnancy, it wasn't like that at all. Like I was feeling pretty much good throughout the whole pregnancy. And also this pregnancy, I was having a lot of pain. And that's one of the reasons why I came to yoga in the first place. It started off with pain in like my lower stomach. And throughout like the end of the pregnancy was more in like my back, like all kinds of like discomfort that just wasn't there in the first pregnancy. Mm-hmm. So I think that's like the most, like the biggest difference. And also obviously I couldn't go home at the end of the day and like lay on my couch. I had to take care of a 4-year-old. So that's also a big difference. Mm-hmm. And I think regarding like preparation for the actual birth. So last time around, it was also like both births were unmedicated. And last time around, I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to succeed in it. Like I have no doubt that it's going to happen. But I think I didn't focus on like how to actually go through those like birth waves and contractions and how to really help myself in the actual moment. Like I did it, but I wasn't minded to that in advance. And I think this time I wanted to put more focus on it. That's why I also asked you some questions like throughout the yoga classes and also other kind of courses that I did throughout the pregnancy. So I think my focus like regarding the actual preparation was a little bit different.
I'm also thinking back to what you said about the nausea. I can imagine also as a nutritionist, that probably was a little frustrating.
Definitely. It was. And I couldn't eat like vegetable and protein, like everything that I usually eat. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, I had that with my second where I'm like, why am I eating all these crackers? And then I was like, drive myself crazy that I'm like, this is not how I should be eating.
Definitely. And it was like, even if I find like a carb that was fine for like 2 days, after 2 days, I couldn't see it anymore. And I had to find like a new carb. Like I was really like, I didn't have what to eat. But it passed. So that was good.
So circling back to the IBCLC, how did that professional background, how did that influence your approach to birth and pregnancy? Or let me try. I'm supposed to be postpartum. Okay. Sorry. Let me try that again. All right. So I want to circle back to your background as an IBCLC. So how do you think that professional background influenced how you approach birth and then also postpartum?
Yeah. So throughout my experience as an IBCLC, I hear like hundreds of birth stories. It's the basic of really every consult that I do, just to understand what was the start of every dyad and really to understand like how it can affect breastfeeding and lactation. And that's something that I also kept in mind throughout my whole journey, probably that your birth story really has an impact of how the lactation will be postpartum, but also how empowered the mom feels and how much she feels that she's ready for the whole lactation experience. Like it really has a big effect. So in that sense, I think that's also what pushed me kind of to aiming for an unmedicated birth both times. That was a part of it. And what else? I think since my first child, I didn't have in New York. This is the first time that I'm giving birth in New York. And I heard a lot of birth stories here. I really wanted to make sure that even if I heard a bunch of stories of all kinds of different situations, I want to have as much control as I can on my specific case, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And a part of it was really preparing myself for those contractions, like to make sure that I know how to deal with them and to help myself progress throughout the labor without needing help from whoever is like with me in the delivery. Mm-hmm. I think that's it.
So when we do our breastfeeding podcast, one thing I want to make sure we talk about, because I think you're kind of alluding to this, and we won't get too into it, but the effect of epidurals and breastfeeding. Is that one of the things that you had in your mind because of the edema and when I did a podcast on that topic, gosh, like 9 years ago. And at that time, I had no idea that because, I knew mentally, I knew logically that once you have an epidural, you have to have continuous IV fluid because it can drop the blood pressure. But I hadn't put it together with, well, where does that fluid go and how does it absorb into the tissue and how that might affect breastfeeding? So I was just kind of making sure that in your mind, I'm like, that is what she that's why she really wanted an unmedicated birth. And I see how you're saying the birth story can influence the feeding journey.
Definitely. And even another point about what you said about the extra fluids, it also goes to the actual baby.
Yep. And then
exactly.
They're like, the weight. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that's the thing that I hear most with clients here is that everybody's like so obsessed about the weight, which in a sense you should be, but in another sense, we need to chill about it a little bit, because sometimes if a woman was in labor for like 24 hours and got so much fluids through her IV, it really does affect the baby's birth weight. Mm-hmm. And then maybe the delta between the birth weight and the discharge weight isn't as big as we thought it was.
Yeah. All right. So this is what we'll talk about on another podcast. But I did have to dip into it because I'm like, I just wanted to make sure I understood, or at least kind of clarify in my thinking mind. I'm like, oh, I want to dig into this more. So thank you. All right. So now we're actually going to take a super quick break. But when we come back, I want to hear your birth story. All right. So listeners, hang on. We'll be right back.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Skims or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and for shoppers buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. It's home of ShopPay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Allbirds uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/income.
Hey friends, Olivia from Ollie. Between new routines and the ultimate group project known as parenting, you need science-backed solutions that work with your life. That's where Ollie comes in. Start your mornings off right with multis made to support nutrition and immune health. Choose from our lineup of gut-supporting probiotics, and we've got occasional sleep support to help the whole fam chase their big dreams. Head back to class with the #1 gummy supplement brand. Stock up on ollie.com today. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Okay, so we are back. So let's start at the beginning. Let me hear your story.
Yeah. So, Deb, I don't know if you remember, but basically, since I reached 38 weeks, I was like, Deb, I'm gonna give birth this week. Like, it's gonna happen at 38 weeks, like last time. Like, I'm not gonna be here next week.
But you were.
And then, exactly. Like, I would wake up every day, to use the bathroom at 4 a.m. and I would be like, okay, I didn't give birth today, maybe tomorrow. And that was like that for 2 weeks. And then the day before 40th, it reached my due date, I came to yoga on Friday. And obviously you can see on my face that I'm totally done. Why am I still here? And you told me in the morning, well, maybe it'll be tonight. And I was like, well, I don't know, but let's see. Anyways, it was that night. Going forward, throughout the day. So I was at yoga in the morning, and then I went to Trader Joe's, and then I picked up my daughter. And then we had I made a big dinner, and we had friends over, and I made dinner. And at 8 p.m., I sat on the couch with my daughter. She fell asleep really fast on me. And then I started feeling that I can't lean back. It's not comfortable anymore to lean back on the couch. And I was like, okay, this is weird, but I don't know. Let's see. And then I went into the shower, and I started having contractions. But last time, with my first birth with my daughter, it started with the water breaking and not with contractions. So this whole part was kind of new to me. How do I know if I'm actually starting labor? But it ended up starting like that. And basically it was a long shower. And then eventually I called my husband saying maybe something's starting. Maybe you should tell my parents to come back. They literally just left our house, who went to a hotel, and then they were coming right back. Once I left the shower, I told my husband to just check how frequent the contractions are, just to understand where we're at. And it was every 2.5 minutes for a minute.
Wow.
So I was okay.
Starting with a bang.
Exactly. And something that I was trying to remember throughout the last part of the pregnancy was, when should I leave for the hospital? Because last time around, I arrived to the hospital when I was fully dilated and the head was at +1. She was almost out, kind of. And this time I wanted to be maybe a little bit more cautious because I didn't want to have an Uber baby. That was like one of my biggest fears, kind of. So we were like, okay, once my dad comes back, we should like start leaving for the hospital. And that's kind of what we did. But there was like an hour until we actually left. So during that hour, I would say that I was on the physio ball, with my headphones, like listening to, I did a hypnobaby, birth seminar class, kind of like 15 hours. So I was listening also to those recordings, but also like really staying focused throughout every contraction. So that was for about an hour. And then the drive to the hospital, it was at night. So that was good. It was like a 15-minute drive. We arrived to the hospital, and then I remember that my husband was like going through all the paperwork. And while he was doing that, I was just like leaning on one of the walls and just focusing kind of there, really trying to keep to a minimum the question, like the answering the questions, trying having my husband answer most of the things for me. And then eventually we did get into the triage, which was an interesting like few minutes, hour. Basically,
tell me
like
why was it so interesting? What was going on?
So I was kind of imagining in my head, like last time, like I'm arriving fully dilated, just take me to like the birth room and I'll get it over with, kind of thing, like really fast. And we ended up being in the triage for an hour. And I would say that most of the time I was also on my back because they were doing like the monitor and checking like how dilated I was and like all kinds of things. And I think what was so kind of cool about it, what I'm thinking about it now, was that I wasn't like super vocal like I was last time, even though obviously I was in a really uncomfortable position. I was really staying focused throughout my contractions. And I was also really able to talk to myself while having the actual contraction, which I found really cool.
What were you saying? Do you remember?
So also a few things that we did like in yoga, but also things that I heard like elsewhere. First of all, like let go, which is something that we worked on a lot during yoga. And I think also that, you know, how a contraction is like about a minute. Mm-hmm. So I could really start like, not that I was counting the seconds, but I could really like talk to myself saying like, this is the beginning, this is the middle. And I could really know like when it's about to end. And then there's kind of like the sensation where it's like, this is about to end, even though it's the most painful, but it's in a second it's over, which was also really helpful to just keep in mind while that was happening. What else was I saying? Also like open, open, open. There were a few more sentences. I have to remember them, but there were a few that were really helping me go through those.
I love the self-talk. I think that can be really important. We even talk about that in yoga, that it could be helppful or it could be a hindrance. So changing the channel, like notice when you're starting to be like, ow, this hurts, and be like, okay, we got to change channel. We got to change the words, because what we say to ourselves really makes an impact. I love that that's what you were focusing on. That's beautiful. All right, keep going.
So I was on the bed for a while, and then once they saw that everything was okay and that was progressing pretty nicely, I moved to a physio ball, like a birth ball. And I was there for a few minutes, and then the midwife was like asking, do you want to move to the delivery room or do you want to stay here? And then we decided like to move to the delivery room. I walked there. It was like a 2-minute walk, but I had some strong contractions during that walk. And then once I arrived to the actual delivery room, I told my husband that I have to use the bathroom like now. So I went into the bathroom and I used it. And then after that, I was becoming very vocal. And basically the situation in the room was that there was only a midwife there, like the OB and whoever else needs to be there wasn't there yet. So the midwife was kind of like anxious that I was going to deliver without the OB there. And I was just trying to get to the bed. It was like kind of chaotic for a few seconds. She was like yelling at me, like, we need to get you on the bed so the baby doesn't fall. And I was like, well, you need to get the doctor. Like there was like a thing there. But basically it ended up being that I climbed up the bed, and then a moment later she was just out, like without even like pushing. She just like plopped out.
So okay, first of all, amazing. So you got on the bed, and how did you have the urge to push? Did you know you were pushing? What position were you in? How did the midwife react? I have so many questions.
Yeah. So I think like the second that I was like the relief of like being on the toilet and then the contractions after, I think it was kind of like everybody was knowing that this is what's going to happen. I didn't really have the opportunity to go into any other position except for just climbing on the bed and being.
So you were still on your knees.
Exactly. Like there wasn't any other option. I wouldn't have time to like go on my back. It was in that moment that I needed to just go on my knees. And I think like if the contractions up until then were a little bit spaced out, once I used the restroom, like they were really, really close together. So it was like really hectic and she just came out. Like I wasn't pushing at all.
That is crazy. You weren't pushing at all. So what was it a surprise? Like how was that? Was it a surprise?
I mean, I think I also like, that was what I was hoping for, but also I was like believing myself that this was going to be fast. Just because the first birth was pretty fast. So, and second time around, I'm hearing that it happens even faster. So it was kind of what I was like aiming for in a way, or at least what I was hoping for.
Uh-huh. How did the midwife react? Just out of curiosity, because it sounds like, also, if you want to share which hospital was it at? Because usually there's a fair amount of care providers around on the floor.
Right. So I think because like 40 minutes before I gave birth, I was only 5 centimeters dilated. Uh-huh. Maybe everybody thought like I had time, even though we like both me and my husband were telling them like the first birth was pretty fast. Like keep that in mind. Things might progress fast. And also when I was in triage, I was already on the birth ball. And I was having like nice contractions because I was with the monitor. And then eventually an OB, not mine, someone else like came in and she was like, you're progressing really nicely, but just so you know, if this slows down, you'll need Pitocin. Mm-hmm. And then in the same second, a contraction started. So like I paused for a second before I answered. And then before even opening my eyes, I was telling her, no, thank you. Because I just understood like we're progressing really fast. My water didn't even break. Like everything is fine. Why would I need Pitocin? Like, and obviously, like, if there's need for Pitocin or for any medical intervention, everything's okay. Like, if you need it, you'll get it. It's not that I don't believe in that, but it just because I have so much knowledge generally about the whole like birth, but also like understanding a little bit more. I just knew that there was no need for that.
So when did your water break, or was she born in the amniotic sac?
Yeah, so I actually asked that after because I didn't remember that happening throughout the whole process. They said it happened like a minute before she came out.
Amazing. That happened with my daughter too. That really? I remember saying, something's coming out. And the water bag bulged and then it broke and then she was out minutes later.
Wow.
But yeah, I was like, wait a minute, was her baby born in? Because that can happen. Some babies are actually born, they call it in call. So some babies are born in their little amniotic sac.
Yeah, which is really cool if you saw it. It
really is. I know. Apparently, to be a Dalai Lama, you're supposed to be born in the amniotic sac. So sorry, really? Our babies won't be Dalai Lamas.
Okay.
So she was born. Did you reach down and grab her? How did that transition go?
Yeah, so that was also kind of a funny like moment. I think nobody was really like imagining or like thinking that's what's going to happen. So basically, I was on all knees and she was kind of behind me in a way. And then I remember like a minute passing and I was like, okay, can I flip around and can you give her to me? It was like I didn't understand why everything was happening behind my back, kind of. Uh-huh. Even though everything was fine, like I felt like they were just like they didn't understand how to bring the baby to me because it was, I don't know.
Oh, usually like for all fours, you can reach between your legs and bring her up, and then it might help you come onto your side and back.
Right, but it was taking them. Yeah, it was taking them a while to like help me. It was like kind of weird, but eventually, yeah, like I was able to go on my back, and she was on me, and also both me and my husband, we were really knowledgeable about the whole like first golden hour and to make sure that there weren't any interventions that weren't needed in that first hour. And generally, I felt like the midwife that was with us was super supportive of that as well. So that was a nice start for the whole lactation process
Oh,
for
that's
us.
so nice. So tell me about that golden hour. What was that like with you guys?
Yeah. So just because, again, this is the first time that I'm giving birth in New York. So I was kind of afraid in a way that they would want to do a bunch of things before we would be able to bond, like me and the baby, me and Goni. So basically the golden hour, like the whole hype about it is it's the best start kind of that you can give to lactation, just because all of their instincts are super like awake. And she really did feed really nicely in that first hour. I will say that she was born kind of small. I'm sorry that I don't know this in pounds, but it was 2.5 kilos.
Mm-hmm.
So they were kind of like scared in a way that she was also born a little bit small, even though she was on her due date. So regarding like her temperature and sugar levels and all of that. And also because I am an IBCLC and I know I have the knowledge of what to do in those situations, I was like, okay, the best thing for her right now is to be with me skin to skin. If you want, I'll put a bunch of blankets on her. Like, I'm good with that, but she's going to be on me. Like, they wanted to put her in the heater for a little bit and give her sugar and stuff like that. I was like, it's okay. She's going to get my milk and I'm going to heat her and she'll be fine. And that really was what happened.
That's really beautiful. So looking back, what do you think helped you feel so empowered during this birth?
That's a good question. So I think generally I really like to be in control of my situations and my experiences. And obviously, like when you're having a contraction, it's not something that you can control. Like, it's not like if the labor started, I can't tell my body, like, I prefer for it to happen tomorrow. If it's starting, then it just is.
Mm-hmm.
So the main thing that got me to really feel empowered from the whole thing is really that I was in much control as I could be, given the circumstance that obviously I had no control over.
Mm-hmm.
Like even during the actual contractions, I was able to really close my eyes and talk to myself and really progress the way I wanted to. And really after like a second after giving birth, I knew immediately that it was a really empowering situation and also a really good and happy experience for like the whole family, which obviously doesn't happen all the time. So I was really happy for that.
Was there anything, because I get it, I like control too. You can ask my kids and my husband. I like control too. So was there any point, because I remember in my own labor, I had to kind of relinquish control at some point, in the idea of I can't control the contractions, and I had to let them, had to like, almost like ride the wave instead of trying to manipulate the wave. That was how I saw it, like riding, not that I surf, but I kind of visualized surfing it. Was there any point where you were able to release into this sensation to help your mind and body relax through it and instead of trying to control necessarily the contraction?
Yeah. So I think that like trying to be as grounded as I could be, no matter on what surface I was kind of at. So if in the beginning I was at home on the birth ball, then I was really like using all my weight to just go on that. If it was in the car, which is not, I was like closing my eyes and my dad was driving really fast because he wanted to get there. But eventually I was like telling Ohad, my husband, like, I feel like I'm on a roller coaster. Like, you guys need to slow down. So I was trying to focus there, but obviously it was a little bit hard because it was like dark and lights and it was just weird. But even getting like to the triage and standing and then just leaning like on the wall, but also using my weight to like dig into the floor in the way, I was always trying to kind of do that as well.
Yeah, ground and breathe and soften. I like all that. So how's recovery been this time around?
I think it was much better and faster than last time.
Oh, tell me about that.
I mean, maybe it's just because I didn't have any choice because my daughter was home. Like, there was spring break for 2 weeks, so I had to like get myself together and and just be fine in a way. But even like physically, I felt like I was bouncing back faster than last time. And also, I think mentally, in a way, I think baby blues was a little bit, it was like worse last time, or maybe for a longer period. And this time it was a little bit shorter, I would say.
Nice. Did you have you said your parents were here. Did they stay for a bit?
Yeah. So my mom was here for 2 months.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah. And my dad was also here for a nice while, which was a lot of help, especially with my older daughter.
Yeah. Oh, that is so nice. And it's good I always think it's great to have grandparents around for the kids.
Yeah.
So what would you say to someone who is listening, who might be nervous about labor or unsure if coping skills can really make a difference?
Yeah. So I think, first of all, I would really try to surround yourself with people that you really trust. So in my case, it was my OB, it was like the Hypnobabies class that I took, and it was also coming to yoga. I really like the agenda and the stuff that you were saying throughout all the classes that were really helping me prepare for that. And also like the whole pregnancy, it's almost a year. You have a lot of time to learn and to really understand what you kind of are aiming for and want to aim for. So I would really use that time, maybe not in the beginning, because who thinks about labor in the beginning, but once you're getting close to it, to really have as much knowledge as you can. Also the practical knowledge of just what's the flow of the birth. Like I remember before doing all the courses and the first time I was pregnant, I was like, well, how do you know that you have to leave for the hospital? Or how do you know when you need all kinds of interventions and stuff like that? So I think that's really good knowledge to have in advance. So if a doctor tells you that you need this or that, then you also have the knowledge of asking questions or saying that you want this or you don't want that. So really surrounding yourself with the people that you trust throughout that process, and also getting as much knowledge as you can. And I'm also a big believer of listening to good birth stories, which was one of the problems with my job, that I was also hearing not so good birth stories.
Yeah,
and I was really trying to
disasters. Yeah,
exactly. I was trying to cancel them out as much as I can, just for my own good experience. But generally, every time, if someone wants to tell you not as pleasant birth story, just say that you're not interested and tell me after. I think that's a good option.
All right, you made me think of one thing. So I love that you carefully picked your OB, and I really love that you talked about pick people you trust, because if you trust, your nervous system is going to be in a more relaxed state than if you don't trust them. You're going to be more on guard. So you picked a care provider that you trusted, but when did that care provider, because I know it happened so quickly, when did the care provider step in to see how things were going?
Yeah. So the funny thing with the OB that I picked out for the pregnancy, but also for the birth, was that I came to her at 38 weeks, and I was like, okay, I want to know your schedule, so I know when to come to the hospital. I was trying to get as much control as I could on the situation. And then a week passed and I was still pregnant. So I made another appointment to the doctor to understand that weekend, when are you going to be on call? And then she was seeing that I was nervous that she wouldn't be there at my actual delivery. So she told me okay, I'm going to be there on Thursday and Sunday, but don't worry. The woman the doctor that's there on Friday, she's she shares the same agenda as me. She'll have your back. You'll be okay. And I ended up really coming out on Friday. I do remember that once the baby was out, I saw in the corner of my eye that the doctor just came into the room. That's kind of how I remember the situation.
Okay. Yeah, I think that can be tricky. That it's something that we talk so much about in class, surround yourself by people you trust, take time to find the care provider. And then I guess sometimes, especially in bigger practices, they're not always there. But I do love that your doctor was partnering with someone that had similar values. So that could at least hopefully help you relax into being okay, like you said, she had your back.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so we're going to take another break. When we come back, what is one tip or piece of advice you'd like to offer new and expectant parents? And this can come from being postpartum. It can come from your background as an IBCLC, a nutritionist. It can come from just being a mom, whatever you want. Okay, we'll be right back.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Skims or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and for shoppers buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. It's home of Shop Pay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Allbirds uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/income.
Okay, we are back. So, what is one tip or final piece of advice you'd like to offer new and expectant parents?
Yeah. So I think the biggest advice I can kind of give all parents is just remember that your baby is your baby. And then even if some people are telling you that something is maybe wrong with like the birth, with the weight that's happening, with the loss of weight, or the I don't know, all kinds of things that can happen, like not enough diapers or whatever. It is important, obviously, to make sure that the baby's okay. And we always want to feed the baby and make sure that the baby is developing perfectly. But it's also really important for the mom to feel empowered throughout her first time as a mom. So I would really recommend also to find the people that you trust, if it's the pediatrician or if it's a lactation consultant, if you need one. Or even a postpartum doula, like whatever you need to really feel the most empowered, but also to feel that you have control in the situation, that you're doing the best thing for what you think that you're doing the best thing for your baby. Because in the end of the day, you're with your baby 24/7. And I, as a lactation consultant or a pediatrician or anything like that, we all see your baby for like an hour, half an hour, and you know best. So just remember that you're the expert on your baby.
Oh, I really love that. All right. So I don't know if you're back at work yet, but by the time this airs, you will be. So where can people find your work?
Yeah. So generally I am doing a few consults here and there if they're in the area of the like Upper West Side kind of. But eventually, obviously, I'll go a bit farther. So the best thing is to reach out just directly to me, because I do work with a lot of also like insurance plans and stuff like that, just to make it a little bit easier if we need to do even a few sessions postpartum. So yeah.
What's your website?
So I would just look me up even like on Instagram or Facebook, with my name, Eyal Meir, but you can obviously spell it. You can see it on the podcast.
Yeah, I'll make sure that's, I know if everyone's like, how do you say that? What is that? I'll make sure it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have so enjoyed hearing your story. When you wrote in that you're like, I gave birth on all fours, I was like, wow, yay for you, because I know that was something we talked so much about, different birthing positions. So I love that it was somewhat by default, but also that it happened. So
yeah.
Amazing. I'm so happy to hear your story. I loved how much you felt really grounded and at home in that story. And it was really so unique to you. So thank you so much for sharing and helping others hear a positive birth story.
Yeah. Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely.
This has been an episode of Yoga Birth Babies, produced by Prenatal Yoga Center. You can catch us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Periscope. I'm Deb Flaschenberg. Thanks for listening.
Class is now in session, and the UPS Store is here to help you ace arriving on campus. Our certified packing experts can pack everything you need, from desktops to decor. Plus, when you pack and ship with us, you get our exclusive pack and ship guarantee. Your items arrive safe or your money back. Restrictions and limitations apply. To get a 20% off packing coupon and for full details, visit theupsstore.com/packing.